Okay, just a real quick ScreenFlow video, just sort of to, I don't know, it's hard to address some of this stuff. Folks will tweet me links to stuff that's being posted, and I'll look at one particular video, and then I look over in the side, and there's just all this stuff, and a lot of it is against me, but then a lot of it goes the other direction too. Um, and just the so much of it is just pure ad hominem, and me with horns and flames in front of my face, and all this kind of stuff. And then ironically, the bottom was my debate with D. Bradshaw from, wow, what is that, 2000 and what, 2002, 2003, I don't know. I can't even read you most of the comments because the amount of four-letter words, it's every other word for some people. That's about all they can pull off. But anyway, I just wanted to play you the beginning of this and then respond to just one thing. Just as an illustration of the depth of the fairness of the argumentation of certain black Hebrew Israelites.
All right, first and foremost, we give all praise, honor, and glory unto the Most High God, Yahweh. In the name of His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, who you ignorantly identify as Jesus Christ. Chief Priest Alexander Lawyer, aka the Gorilla Hebrew. I'm joined by Deacon Akago Yum. We are the Sicarii sect. You are looking at Satan right now. You are looking at the devil that the Bible speaks of. You are looking at an ancient Edomite.
Okay, so you are looking at Satan. You're looking at the devil. I'm not sure how many logical and argumentative errors actually you can pile into something. Poisoning the well and ad hominem, and you really start a long list. But I mean, I'm sure these gentlemen actually believe what they're saying, but it's just hard to even begin to reason with folks that start off in this way. And one of my main criticisms has been when you look at their stuff, you don't see much in the way of reasoning, anyways, and that's the point. But aside from all the videos that are being posted, I don't even know that I'd have time during the day to watch all of them. I mean, some of them are hours long. Thankfully, I really have far more important things to be doing. But just so you guys know, there's all this stuff about we've been destroyed and we're running away and all the rest of this stuff, as if we have to define ourselves by you. Here's a promise for you. We're going to do some more programs. We're going to put some more information out there. But the difference is we're not going to be disrespectful. We're not going to rage. We're not going to use profanity. We're going to do serious scholarship. And we're going to put it all together and let those who access it judge for themselves. And I'll tell you right now, once we finish that work, if we don't keep rolling in the mud with you, if we don't do all the profanity and the nastiness and the personal attacks, you're going to claim that you've won. And all. Look, been there, done that, got the t-shirt. There's nothing new about this. It happens on the playground in 6th grade all the time. This is just childish bullying. That's all it is. And if it's all you've known in life, well, I'm sorry for you, but we will get around to doing things. Like I said, there's going to be some programs done while I'm gone right now, traveling out of state. And looks like I'm going to be heading to Australia and New Zealand in October. So there's a lot of preparation for that. But still, probably before then, before any more international travel, we'll take the time. For example, the next time I preach at my church, I'm finishing a whole series on the holiness code, the law of God in Leviticus and Deuteronomy. And I just asked, these guys, they're not going to hear this, but I would just ask, because there are people in the movement that are not as nasty as these folks. I would ask you to maybe consider, if you've sort of thought, these guys are raising questions and I'm not sure we're providing meaningful answers, go listen to the series I've done on the holiness code. Not a lot of people preach on stuff like that. We do know about the law and have a very high view of God's law. Why don't you go take a look at it? It's on sermonaudio.com. Put my name in. You'll be able to find it right there. You'll be able to listen to the sermons. And I'm going to be doing, finishing up that series by looking at the blessings and cursings of primarily Deuteronomy 28 and 29, sort of as a summary overview, which means at some point I will, probably not in the sermons, but on the dividing line, do a serious examination of the Deuteronomy 28 passage that you all really put a lot of weight on. And so we'll be doing that. But you see, unlike you, we don't have to do that the day after something airs. There is an impatience and impertinence. Serious scholarship and serious thought takes time. And so we're going to get around to it. We're going to do it. Nobody's running. I'm sorry, but your scholarship is that of an echo chamber. And it's not challenging. It just isn't. And so it's not a matter of being afraid of you. You all do tend to seem to threaten violence and things like that. But as far as your scholarship is concerned, I don't find it threatening by any stretch of the imagination. But like I said, we'll get to that. There was evidently in this video somewhere, I have not taken the time, it was an hour long, have other things to be doing. But evidently from someone on Twitter, part of the argumentation that is presented here is the idea that the Jews used the Apocrypha because of Hanukkah. And once again, serious study of history requires you to examine the presuppositions of arguments. The presupposition of this argument is that because the Jews celebrated Hanukkah, then any book that had been written beforehand that mentioned Hanukkah must have been considered to be scripture. So then it would be easy to find sources in Josephus and other places where they say, oh yeah, this is exactly how the Jews viewed things, right? But you won't find any sources like that. The reality is the assumption is the false assumption that's being made is that if the Jews observe it, then it must have been commanded them in Scripture. And anybody who knows the New Testament knows that's not true. The Jews, for example, observed the concept of the Korban rule. And in the Gospels, Jesus rebuked them for following the Korban rule because it violated Scripture. So they were observing something that violated Scripture. Now, they would have argued, but it was handed down to us from Moses. That, in fact, it's found in the Mishnah. And so by the argument that's being used, then the Mishnah should be Scripture because the Jews of that day were following it. It's found in the Mishnah. Therefore, the traditions of the Mishnah should be Scripture, right? No, of course not. And there were things in the Scriptures that the Jews weren't following. The Scriptures plainly laid out the year of Jubilee. Were the Jews following that in that day? No, they weren't. So you had things in acknowledged Scripture that the Jews were ignoring. And you had things that they were following that were contradicted by the Scriptures. And so on what logical, rational, historical basis do you come up with the idea that even though those books themselves deny being Scripture, those books themselves make reference to the Tanakh, the Torah, Nevi'im, and Ketuvim, and they demonstrate that they're not of those. The Jews never laid them up in the temple. I'd be interested, the only reason I'd be interested in even surviving all the profanity and everything else that undoubtedly is in this video would be to find out if any of you folks have ever even read Beckwith's Old Testament Canon, the New Testament Church. So you could deal with the laying up of books in the temple, making the hands unclean. Why is it that so many of those sources from the first century only have 22 or 24 books, and both are in reference to the Protestant 39-book canon of the Old Testament when you realize that they included the minor prophets as one and so on and so forth. What about these sources? These are primary sources. These are the sources that real scholars deal with. And so to try to say, well, but there's something in here, and they followed it, and therefore that makes it scripture, is not serious argumentation. It may, make you feel better, and may, make some of your followers think that, but that's not serious argumentation. So once again, we will be getting to addressing many of these issues. Well, we have addressed many of these issues. I mean, I've pointed people to the debates that we've done on the issue of the Apocrypha, lengthy debates, 2-3 hours long. And so I would refer people to them once again. But it is fascinating to see the flood of videos coming out over only a little over 2 weeks, and just the flood of irrational ad hominem attacks and everything else. You know that you have touched upon the real issues, and that side is extremely nervous when you get this kind of response, and all the bullying, and you've been destroyed, and all the stuff you get at the schoolyard ends up on YouTube. You know that there's a real problem there. So in time, we're going to be putting all that material together. Keep watching, and we'll see what happens from there. Thanks for watching. God bless.